for the past while. I went out to eat and then I came home and I'm just like, oh, wait a minute. What's going on? Okay. Yeah, I tried getting on the computer. I tried using the phone. I fired up the phone again and now it's working. But the battery's low, so I won't be on for very long, unfortunately. Ah, well, it is what it is. Yeah, it's weird whenever that happens when like the stream just refuses to work, and you have to just keep messing with it until it comes on. Unbelievable. I think there are people waiting in that other stream though. Let's see. Yeah, I probably should have taken a break tonight, but yeah, I really, really, really wanted to come in because come on and talk about like what's been going on with Pow World and the Pokemon thing, because this is not a new thing. People don't understand this that game journalists have been trying to create, manufacture a Pokemon competitor for a very, very long time, right? I wanted to talk a little bit about that, about how Yokai Watch, how Temtem, how like Power World, they're being pushed by the media. Like you'll see this if you're actually paying attention, but like these franchises clearly are not really Pokemon competitors, right? You know that they're not as good, they're not as polished, they don't have like a concept, they're not as popular worldwide. They don't really catch on all that well, right? But every time we're told, every single time we're told that this is the Pokemon killer, this is going to be the game that wins over, that destroys the highest grossing brand in the world, right? We've seen this a couple of times, right? If you've been following along, you've seen this before. And it's very, very deliberate. It's not real at all, right? It's game journalists trying to convince you that Pokemon is on the way out and that it's not cool anymore, right? They've been doing this since at least Gen 2, I think. Probably earlier than that, if we're being completely honest. But yeah, like I remember being told, you know, that like, oh, Pokemon, it's the same thing over and over again. Back in like the 90s, you know, like it's not it's not a new argument. And like every time I hear it, I just kind of roll my eyes at it. Like it's not something I personally take seriously at all. But there seem to be like a handful of people who take that very seriously, right? Who religiously obsess over it, who just absolutely hate Nintendo and want to see it fail, see them fail. And to do that, they're going to have to get past Pokemon. That's been a big thing over the past generation, that it's become very, very apparent, you know, after the success of the 3DS, that Pokemon is, as long as it exists, as long as it continues to be popular, there will be no downplaying Nintendo hardware, right? Like it just isn't possible. Like it's the biggest brand on the planet. People love Pokemon, and as a result of that, every time a new Pokemon game comes out, the gaming media has to like do damage control for it, right? Like it's kind of remarkable how something like you know, Blue Rescue Team, right? How those games get slammed by the media. How like Legends Arceus can come and go, like stuff like that. Like it's crazy how those games can come out and yet be written off and ignored, right? Like it's crazy how you don't ever really see Pokemon being talked about seriously among game criticism circles, right? Like, oh, it's just Pokemon. Yeah, Pokemon, one of the best RPGs on the planet. Like, hell, like it's been something I've been talking about for a long time, but there's a very real bias against Pokemon. There's this very real unwillingness to admit that its existence proves that turn-based RPGs are very popular, that Nintendo consoles are very popular, and that there is like a very dedicated audience of people who will buy this hardware no matter what. Right? Pokemon has been a major obstacle when it comes to like the third party narrative that um, Nintendo fans don't like complex combat systems or, you know, RPGs in general, right? Like Pokemon has been a huge thing in keeping Nintendo relevant throughout the past 30 years, right? Like it's been huge. Like I have no doubt in my mind that without Pokemon, there would have been a lot more pushback against the Game Boy and the the DS line, right? Like, and with such a powerful brand, it is impossible to downplay the hardware it's on. And as a result of that, once it made the jump to Switch, once Pokemon could no longer be downplayed and ignored, the gaming establishment had to step up in a big way. They had to start downplaying Pokemon because traditionally they used to just be able to. They tried to convince themselves that, like, oh, it's just a kids thing, it'll pass. Nobody will care about this 20 years from now, whatever. Like, we'll just tell people it's a dying fad. And then that never happened, right? By the time Black and White came out, it was really, really apparent that Pokemon wasn't going anywhere, right? And with X and Y, kicking off 3DS's glorious console domination, uh, Pokemon began being seen as a real viable threat. And with the Switch launch, like, it became apparent that with Pokemon, this was going to become one of the best selling consoles ever. So the gaming media had to start their campaign railing against Pokemon, right? It started immediately on the console, right? Let's go. Uh, like, initially there was like all this talk, like all this fake news of Pokemon being like, they were gonna get a port of Gen 7 right away, and it was gonna have all these crazy features. Obviously not true. What we got instead was Let's Go. And although Let's Go was great, it was wonderful. Everybody loved it. Like, when it was first shown off, there was a lot of like really fake forced criticism towards the property, right? Like, oh no, it's casualized. Like, again, it was just kind of hand wringing, just kind of downplaying the product, like not really understanding, like, that this was a game made for people who liked Pokemon Go, which was also downplayed. Actually, still downplayed. I believe Pokemon Go is still very popular. I don't have time to play Power World. Yeah, so Let's Go was like really, really, really strongly pushed back against right out of the gate. Really, before we knew anything about it, there were rumors that they were going to make this kind of experience on Nintendo Switch, like this kind of a completely different Pokemon adventure that still harkened back to Gen One, and it actually makes a lot of sense, right? This was not a game targeted towards core Pokemon players. It was a game targeted towards people who were more familiar with Pokemon Go. And as a result of that, the game did fairly well. People liked it. I like it, and I think it's a really good, solid entry level Pokemon game. But there were a lot of people who were adamant that the game was some kind of disaster and that it needed to be pushed back against. That, like, Game Freak had let them down. And it is really important to understand this because this is kind of a reoccurring theme throughout the Switch generation, where a Pokemon game gets announced and the immediate response is negative, right? Everyone says it looks like garbage. Everyone says it's bad. Everyone says it's like a disappointment compared to past generations. And then the game comes out. It's great. It's innovative. It does a lot of new things for the property. And then people like slowly start admitting it's great, right? It happened with Let's Go. It happened with Sword and Shield, and it's happening now with Scarlet and Violet and Legends Arceus in particular. Uh, the narrative initially was that Pokemon is not competitive with other properties, right? The idea was that Pokemon is this big, epic, like the best-selling brand on the planet. Surely they can afford to have their games be ultra realistic and have all these things that other modern games have. Never mind those other modern games are garbage and that Pokemon is way better than any of them. Like, let's just pretend that Pokemon is behind the times, right? And it's a really interesting thing that the narrative has been that, like, Pokemon is behind the times, because in reality, Pokemon has done more for the gaming industry than I think most other brands in existence, right? It really makes full use of the Nintendo hardware. It really incorporates multiplayer very well. it incorporates social aspects. It incorporates like just the general design and feel of the system, right? Like no other property, I think, really emphasizes the portability aspect to Nintendo hardware than Pocket Monsters, right? It is an essential part of the brand and a big part of what makes it special. But like, because this is a franchise that is a very tightly run ship, because they do have a very small team, because they do try and keep their budget under control, because they're actually responsible with the way they execute and develop their games. The games come out finished. The games come out looking great. The games come out like with plenty of content, lots of things to do, hundreds of hours of gameplay, dozens of new Pokemon to catch. There's so much to look forward to in every Pokemon game. But because they don't take huge graphical leaps every single time, people have this misconception that Pokemon doesn't look any different, that it doesn't evolve, that it doesn't do anything new, that it's not fresh. And it is one of those things that's so laughable to me as an actual fan. To me, I think anybody who seriously says that like Pokemon games are always the same is just downright delusional. Like in the past couple of years alone, we had like Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet, an open world game, and another title that was radically different than any Pokemon game ever released. Right, Legends Arceus was really creative and innovative, but the narrative for both of those games is that they didn't do enough. And the big thing is, I think, that the people who are complaining about these games, who are making these statements, who are making these allegations, who are complaining about Pokemon, are not and never have been fans. That is the reoccurring trend I've been noticing looking at like the reception to Let's Go, to Sword and Shield, to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, to Legends Arceus, to Scarlet and Violet, right? Like the reoccurring pattern I see is that a lot of people are complaining that Pokemon is not exactly like other games. That's what it all boils down to, and it's the real reason why Pow World has like caught on the way it has among YouTubers, the kind of people who really love like attacking Pokemon. It's because that like it's generic, you know, crafting gun slop, right? It is a Fortnite clone, right? It is ripping off all these aspects from all these other games, doing them badly, but oh man, Pokemon are in it, so it's Kino, right? It's way better than what Game Freak is doing, right? All of these people are ignoring everything Pokemon like has managed to accomplish over the past 30 years. All the innovations, all the spin-offs, all like everything they're doing to quite seriously pretend as if this early access slop is something to be excited over, right? That's the issue that we're seeing here now, is that people are willing to just blindly support this project that's not even finished yet, that has tons of bugs, that clearly has a lot of stolen assets, that is uninspired, derivative of several other games. People are willing to praise that over Pokemon simply because it has action-based combat, right? Like, like I said, a real fan of Pokemon would understand the appeal and the fun of the traditional gameplay loop, right? Real fans have spent hours and hours like catching Pokemon, raising them, trading them with friends, and like learning more about the world of Pokemon. Learning more about the Pokemon you encounter and like the setting, and you just end up getting an appreciation for it. Like a real fan would not want Pokemon to change in the way that people are suggesting it change. Right? There is, of course, plenty of room for spin-off growth, but you'll notice this if you bring up the topic of there being plenty of spin-off Pokemon games. No, they'll try to tell you that like they want mainline to change, that they don't care about spin-offs. And I think that's really just goes to show their mindset, that like they're so obsessed with this like weird misconception of what Pokemon should be that they really don't understand what it is. And this has been a problem for a long, 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 long time. It's not anything new. It's the reason why we keep seeing like this backlash towards Pokemon. It's people who don't understand the appeal of the brand, who don't play the games, who don't understand the fun of the games, just like being salty towards it because it's so popular, right? Like I remember what it was like being a Pokemon fan growing up and having people who don't care about the games just obsessively just try and like downplay them, try to like pretend they're not very good or that like they're on the way out or whatever. And there's a part of you that wonders if they're right, if like Pokemon's really as good as you think it is, and whether it's going to stand the test of time. You know, I thought with Gen 4, I was about ready to quit. And, with Gen 8 and 9, it kind of felt like maybe I should consider quitting, considering my schedule. But, like when I look at how much fun I'm having and how much I enjoy the games, like, no, I don't think I'll quit ever, right? Like, I love the brand. I love Pokemon. I love everything the brand does for me. And like, if you're really that bored of Pokemon, if you're a jaded fan, like, just play something else, you know? Like, why demand that Pokemon change to become generic? Like, where is the appreciation for what Pokemon does better than does better than any other franchise on the planet, right? Like, why do you honestly think that changing, like making Pokemon more generic is a good thing? Like, if anything, the way it comes off as is that if you think Pokemon should, uh, you're trying to destroy Pokemon, right? And I do think that is the case. I've said this several times. I do stand by this statement. I don't believe that the critics of Pokemon at any point in its history have the brand's legacy or well-being in mind, right? They don't care about the brand. and and that's something that needs to be acknowledged when talking about this stuff, because all they seem to care about is just ranting and raving about how much they hate what Pokemon is, as opposed to just, I don't know, not talking about it. Like, if you hate Pokemon so much, why are you obsessing over it? Why are you excited over something like Power World? It comes off as really fake and just kind of forced, honestly. Whenever I see people like, oh, I'm a big Pokemon fan, but Power World is way better. I remember when people said the same thing about like Yokai Watch and Temtem and stuff like that. Like, seeing Power World being treated the same way is just laughable, right? We all know how this ends. It's the same thing we've always gotten. Just, flavor of the month monster catching game that isn't ever really going to touch like what Pokemon manages to do. And Power World is no different. Like, we're already kind of seeing people say that, like, well, it sold 20 million units. No, it didn't. Yes, it did. They reported it on Twitter. No, they they said they had 19 million players. Right. That's the difference here. I've talked about this before with Overwatch and I believe some other properties. Overwatch is the one I'm most familiar with, though. Sea of Thieves, yeah. Like, companies use like the player count thing as like a gaslight like thing. They use it as a way to gaslight people into thinking their game is a lot more popular than it actually is. Like, to me, it was really obvious what happened when Pow World stopped updating their sales numbers. Well, first of all, people were like skeptical the sales numbers were real to begin with, because I addressed that. But now, like, now that they've posted like 19 million players, like, we know what they were trying to do. They were trying to figure out how to gaslight people into thinking that they had sold another 10 million. But no, that's not what happened at all. Like, all they're trying to do is gaslight people into thinking they're more popular than they actually are. That's it. They think if they become the hot new popular thing that they'll manage to keep themselves relevant, but it's just not going to happen. Honestly, I'm kind of wondering if the game's ever going to get formally finished. Because I imagine there's just going to be more and more issues. There's just going to be more and more things piling up. And more than anything, I think people are going to get bored of the game. Like, I just don't see the game. We're on, like, what, week two now? Week one? Is it week one? Like, it was a flavor of the week title. It's crazy to think how far it's fallen off. It's not something people want to admit just yet, but yeah, like you can see just how people have gotten bored of it and are starting to have like problems with, like, acknowledging that the game isn't that good is that's going to be a real problem for them going forward, especially after people like me put like another 50 hours into the next couple of Pokemon games. Let's see. Oh, hello. I haven't been looking at the. I should probably get my chat up. I don't even think I have my video monetized. No, I don't. Okay. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Hello, hello. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, like I noticed that people like Donkey and outlets like Eurogamer were like coming out speaking out against Power World, right away. Like Donkey made a negative review, Eurogamer gave it a negative review, and they were just like kind of shouted down, like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. This is the greatest thing ever." I think they were right. Like I'm looking at like I haven't actually watched the Donkey video, but like that's the impression I always get. Like whenever these flavor of the month games come out, is just that like is like there's a brief period of time where like the hot thing, they're the most popular game on the market allegedly, like ooh the most played game on Steam, and then like a couple of weeks later they're completely forgotten, and it's getting worse with time. Like Hasbro is selling off Dungeons and Dragons apparently. After Baldur's Gate 3, like you would think if Baldur's Gate 3 really was like that monumental of a success, that they would probably want to double down on it, like produce more video games, more adaptions, like partner with different studios while producing Baldur's Gate 4. Why have they not produced Baldur's Gate 4 immediately? Right? Like, why is nobody even talking about the possibility of Baldur's Gate 4? Like, because there is no real interest in it, right? Like the franchise is not gonna last. Just like Witcher 3, just like Dragon Age Inquisition, like same kind of thing. It's just like it just exists to take attention away from Nintendo games, and that's it. And I think that's the case with Power World as well. Like this isn't something people actually like. This is something people like to use to weaponize against Nintendo, and I do think that is the critical thing to understand about this, and to understand like Nintendo discourse in general. Like everything they talk about is just a weapon against Nintendo. It has nothing to do with the quality of the games. It has nothing to do with like anything Nintendo is doing right or wrong. It's entirely based on this idea that Nintendo is bad and needs to be dealt with. Mhm. Yeah, like I don't know. Like I was being told, like when Baldur's Gate 3 came out, like, oh, you don't understand, Harmon. Like, yeah, Dungeons and Dragons is the biggest thing ever. People got together during a pandemic and started playing this game. It's the biggest thing ever now. No, 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 no. It was absurd. It was like patently ridiculous. I talked about this. I talked about how fake the hype around Baldur's Gate 3 was. And you know what? I was right. We're in 2024 now, and nobody remembers Baldur's Gate 3. Nobody. And like, I really wonder if Power World's even going to be mentioned at like by the end of the year. Like they're gonna keep trying to milk this for as long as they can. I noticed like Jeff Keighley and Takashi Mochizuka, both of who are shills. Um, like I noticed both of them were going to bat for it. Like, oh, what could make Power World such a success? They plagiarized Pokemon, the biggest brand on the planet. Like, what do you think? What do you think makes the game popular, genius? like, it's weird. It's weird to see them play dumb in that regard. See them like hype this up as some like monumental success story when really it's not. I just don't. It's a blatant shill campaign, I think. And I think we saw similar things with Temtem and stuff like that. Not to this extent though. Like it really feels like they're really trying to like. I think this is the real goal here, to ruin Pokemon in general. Like to try and like genericize the brand and like normalize copycat products because they know that like nothing they can do is ever gonna dismantle Pokemon. So they got to find a way. They got to get like artificially create competition. They gotta like start ripping off designs. They gotta start pushing forward things that are like better than Pokemon. Like you might have noticed this back in the Sword and Shield days. Like they were promoting literally every game that looks similar to Pokemon over it. Yeah, Dragon Quest 11, Temtem, like Digimon Cyber Sleuths, like all this crazy stuff. Yeah, the novelty's wearing off. Yeah, I agree. Like that's all it is, a novelty. Yeah, revive it in December. Yeah, that's what like they tried to do with Alan Wake too. Like they tried getting people to talk about it, but like nobody cared. Like um if anything, like doing that, I think is just gonna discredit the Game Awards. Because like I think they got away with like giving awards to major AAA products that sell millions of copies, but like when it comes to like some stuff like It Takes Two or Baldur's Gate 3, stuff like nobody actually plays, Pow World, like people are going to be a lot more discerning. Like really, this one, and I do think like well, I've actually confirmed this. I personally have no intention of watching the Game Awards ever again. I will speak out against it. I do think it's full of shills. I do think like they are unreliable. I think they promote bad games. Like, and I do think they are going to continue to shill for Bow World. I do think they're going to do it. Um, actually, they already have done it. But it's like, yeah, the entire purpose is to downplay Pokemon. Yeah, I'm curious what like this year's Game Awards are going to get. I'm curious if people are going to like going forward stop having so much faith in the Game Awards. Like I personally feel as if um, we're at the beginning of the end stage, or like people just kind of discredit the entire thing and don't take it seriously. Like me personally, I find myself very frustrated with what happened last year with with like the awards given and like the cocksucking for Baldur's Gate 3, for Kojima, for having Sean Murray and on stage. Like that was a major slap in the face to everybody who bought No Man's Sky day one. Like it's disgusting seeing what like the modern gaming scene is right now. And what's more, it really does feel like the vast majority of the audience is like going along with it. Like they're happy that Pokemon is getting plagiarized. They're supporting it. They're enabling it. They think it's funny, right? Uh, they love like just bending over for these massive corporations, right? As long as like Batman doesn't get shot in the face, they're fine. It's just like yeah, they were perfectly willing to go along with like all these terrible Arkham games, but don't you dare showcase Batman in a moment of weakness. Don't you dare make it woke. But yeah, it's frustrating. Let's see. Oops. Game of the Year award show. I'm happy with mine, honestly. I'm happy with the way things are now. Mm. Hmm. Yeah, the battery on my phone is dying. I probably won't be streaming much longer. I've only been going for half an hour tonight. I'm exhausted, so I think I will just probably end it soon. But like, yeah, in general, I feel like every Nintendo IP is getting slandered to some extent. But right now, I think Pokemon is getting slandered the same way that the Wii U got slandered. Right? The same way Mario and Zelda got slandered in the mid 2000s, right? Um, like people want to convince themselves that there are better games out there, but there really aren't. Like it's the same thing as in the 2000s. Like people like legit throughout like Darksiders and Akami and Dark Cloud as like superior alternatives to Zelda. And when Skyrim and Dark Souls came out, people thought they had it. But then like, Breath of the Wild came out like not even a decade later and kind of crushed that entire narrative. And that game was everything that people said they wanted, but are you seeing people acknowledge that Breath of the Wild is the greatest game ever made, that it stomps all over Skyrim, Dark Souls, like Elden Ring even? Like, no, like you're not seeing that at all. Like everybody's just keeping up this farce that hmm, Zelda's on the way out, right? Like Tears of the Kingdom got slandered pretty badly, right? Mario Wonder got slandered. And like I don't think that's gonna stick. In a lot of ways, it's interesting, like being in 2024 and seeing that Tears of the Kingdom and Mario Wonder are actually two of the 2023 games that are talked about the most. Like those are the games that retain their relevancy, right? The narrative was that like neither of those games were a big deal, but in reality, those are the only two games that people are going to remember long term, right? It reminds me a lot of like how like 3D World came out and how that was a big deal, and how like these guys like bent over backwards trying to damage control it, but in the end, it became a classic. Like, um, and that was after they successfully downplayed New Super Mario Bros. U, right? Like it's just becoming harder and harder for these people to keep up this facade. Like it's becoming harder and harder to gaslight people into thinking the new Nintendo game is bad. Like Metroid Dread, like is a really good example of this. Like we were told that game was disappointing. We were told that it was like not that it wasn't worth the wait, but 2 years later, like I well, actually no, yeah, it's 2 years later. Yeah, two and a couple of months. 2 years later, like the game, I'm seeing people say it was like the best game we've gotten since Super, right? Like it was a really good super sequel to that game, and I can't say I disagree. And that was after like Samus Returns was heavily downplayed. After Federation Force, like like there was so much like people were holding against the franchise for a long time. It's so odd to see the franchise so relevant and yet like nobody is talking about it right now. Like Metroid Prime 4 could be confirmed that could be coming out in the next year or so. And I don't expect you'll see a lot of people make waves about it. Like how many people in like the normie sphere do you see talking about Metroid Prime Remastered, right? That was better than Dead Space. Angry Joe didn't play Metroid Prime Remastered, but he certainly played Dead Space, even though Metroid Prime is a far superior game and always will be. Like, like I just don't see mm, how much longer this narrative can keep up. Like I remember when Mario Wonder was shown off, and like people were seriously saying it was like not even like a major Switch release, right? That it was just going to be like some shovelware before the Switch 2, like early in 2024, right? Remember that? Like I certainly do. Like everything is shovelware apparently, except for like maybe Smash Bros. Like I'm so tired of seeing all these big, great looking Nintendo games just written off for petty reasons, and Pokemon is absolutely one of the major victims for that right now. Like it should be considered the best turn-based RPG out there. It should be considered the pinnacle of a genre, but it's not. Like right now, we're seeing this weird like attempts at like subverting, destroying it, and it's not really working. But at the same time, like it's not getting the praise and enthusiasm it deserves either. Like it was crazy to me how like good Scarlet and Violet was. Legit, probably the best generation since Gen 5, in my opinion. And it's a toss up between it and 7 for sure. But yeah, it was crazy. Like looking at how good that game was, like seeing everything it managed to accomplish with the open world and like the storylines and like the characters and stuff like that. Like it evolved the formula so much, and the game just doesn't have mainstream attention for it. You know, I remember when like IGN was made fun of for like the too much water comment in the Gen 6 remakes, but you know, I'm seeing those kind of like ridiculous comments all the time. And I don't see nearly the same kind of backlash towards them. Like it is crazy. Yeah, did he? Yeah. Yeah, every single time. They all did that. You know, Max Dude did it. Arlo did it. Yeah. I can't think of anyone else I know for sure did it. Like a lot of big YouTubers, like the bigger ones. Like they said that every direct last year, I think. Oh, the Switch is on the way out. Look at these minor releases. And now they're doing the same thing this year. It's weird. I don't think people are buying into it as much this year. I don't know. Like we're in February now, and there's still no word about it. So I definitely don't think we're gonna get it this year. I don't know. I'm starting to get interested in the idea of picking up new Nintendo hardware though. Like I would not mind getting a Switch OLED for sure. The Angry Joe person is 10 worse in 2003. I did see that. Yeah, I didn't watch it yet. Yeah, I need to. I would watch it tonight, but on live, I think I'll do it after I end the stream. Like the battery is dying. How much battery life do I have left? Ugh. Yeah, I definitely want to keep streaming, but it's like, yeah, I just got home, haven't charged my phone. I need to charge my own battery. Shit, I want to go to bed. Yeah, fuck the phone. I'm just tired. I'm making excuses to end the stream and go to bed. Ugh. Yeah, I mean, I would like to get a new Switch, but it's like, I don't know what I would do with my old one. I would have to transfer the data. I don't have anyone I would want to give it to. It's like, ugh, I don't know. I don't know. Do you think a girl would get mad if I bought a Switch OLED for myself and then gifted her the old Switch? I don't know. That seems kind of trashy. Like, oh, I bought the present for myself, but you can have my trash. No, I don't think that's a good idea. I'd give it to a kid, but I don't know. I think all the kids in my family have Switches already. And honestly, like I'm kind of uncomfortable with like getting kids hooked on video games anyway. Like, I feel like you should be focusing on career stuff, like from a very early age. Like I am very concerned about kids in the family not being able to get jobs or whatever. Like I really struggled with that for a long time. And like that is 90% because of my parents, right? And like maybe like 5% because of my autism, but like I oh maybe I'm giving nah. Like I don't know, it was my situation. I don't know. I don't think my situation would ever really happen to anyone else, but I'm still concerned about it. I don't know. I'm just kind of. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I really hate this about myself. I feel really uncomfortable trying to be like fun with the family and talking about stuff like that. Because I don't know. I don't want to be Nick Rekieta. Like, I don't know. Like, ooh, we gotta take things seriously. Like, I don't know. I'm definitely worried about like them and stuff like that. I've I don't know. I've been thinking about them a lot. Well, not so much now that they're older, but like yeah, there was a period of time where I was thinking about them a lot. Uh, yeah, I'm sure they're gonna be fine, but it's like uh, very worried. Wait, 15 hours? Oh, 1.5 hours, really? 1.5 hours, really? Yeah, yeah, he said it was the longest ever. Okay, I am really curious at this point. How much battery do I have left? Uh, yeah, I'm really curious. What did he put on the list? I am legit curious. Top 10 worst games. Okay, what is that face? Okay, fuck you, Joe. Okay, number 10. Yeah, it's for spoken. Uh, hmm. Madden? Of course it is. Hang on, somebody has to give me timestamps. Give me this. Someone give me. Okay, timestamps. Okay, for spoken. Crime Boss, Madden, Wanted, COD, Redfall, The Walking Dead. Who would play any of these games? Like that's my thing about these lists is like, why are you playing this obvious shovelware? Like The Walking Dead is bad. Wow. Like I remember I picked Zombie U over the first Walking Dead on Wii U. No regrets, right? I remember like the thought that I talked to the day after I did that. Oh, did you buy The Walking Dead? No, bitch, I bought Zombie U. Like, still mad at her by the way. Shit taste in video games. Shit person. I was just thinking about how much I hate that bitch. And I tried to be her friend too. Like I was so nice to her, and like, oh, man, he played all that trash but didn't play Zelda. I know, right? Like that makes me so frustrated. Like, oh, I don't have time to play Zelda or Mario or Fire Emblem or Pikmin 4, but oh, I'll play Golem like all day. Like, fuck Golem. Okay? Like I don't care. Nobody wanted to play as fucking Smeagol. Like nobody looked at that game and was just like, my precious. Like nobody thought that was gonna be good. Nobody. Like I didn't need to see like an hour-long Angry Joe video saying that like the stealth sections were terrible. Okay? Like I knew not to buy the game. In fact, I went one step further and stayed away from all the consoles that it was on. Okay? Like you shouldn't be shocked that Gollum is a bad video game. Like, come on. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for reminding me that. That pisses me off. I forgot about the real reason I was mad at him. Like, yeah, the annual football game. Yeah, like, yeah, I don't know. Like, was Taylor Swift in the game? Did she ruin it? Like, I don't know. Like, imagine caring about football in like 2024. It's so ridiculous to me that like I feel like I don't know. I've seen people say this, and I really do think it's true. Like I feel like most adult men care more about like sports ball than they do like their own families. Like that is like the impression I get. like watching other people talk about this, and it frustrates me so much. Like I hate it so much, and I just don't see enough people like condemning it. It's just one of those things that just feels like it's so common in our culture, and it's like it's bred in circuses. You're ignoring your actual problems, like in favor of like cheering on some millionaires throwing a ball around. Like no, like honestly, that's like one of those reasons why I don't feel sorry for like what happens to other people, because they're so like overly concerned about things that do not matter, like sports ball, instead of like actually, doing something productive, learning something, or like just being a more proactive, like being a better person. Like I just do not see that from people who are sports ball fans. Like that is, I think, one of the biggest signs that someone is an NPC is if like they care about sports ball or celebrities in general. Like I know I made fun of Taylor Swift, but that was really only because everybody else is. Like she's a 34-year-old woman pretending she's still 16. Crazy. Crazy. Oh, she might trick people into voting for Biden. Yeah. If you're like influenced by like who Taylor Swift says you should vote for, you probably shouldn't be voting. Like I didn't know 14-year-old girls were allowed to vote. Like, do girls like still like Taylor Swift, or is it mostly like her established fan base? I don't know anything about like what she's like now. Like I stopped caring about that bitch a long time ago. Like I considered her a sellout for years, like over a decade, like way before she started shilling for Biden. Like I don't understand why she's shilling for Biden. Like I would have had so much more respect for her if she just like stayed neutral or like publicly neutral. But no, like she has to like keep herself famous for a little bit longer. Like I don't know. Like I feel like that's the only reason she's still prominent is because they think they can use her in this way. I don't know. Like outside of that, like when do you hear people talk about her at all? It's just yeah, it's fucking stupid. I hate that shit. I don't even know who's playing. That's how out of touch I am. Like I don't even know which team Taylor Swift is rooting for. Is it true? Like they're legit rigging games for her. Like the refs are like making bad calls because of her. Like if that's true, like I don't understand why anybody cares about the NFL. like I've heard that like that's happening, but like I don't know. That just seems like I don't know. Are people just making shit up? It's just yeah. I just made fun of people caring about Taylor Swift, and here I am talking about her. Yeah, I probably should just end the stream. Yeah, the battery is looking awfully low. I don't remember seeing like a 10% gauge, but yeah, it's been 40. It's been 50 minutes. Yeah, I'm gonna call. Yeah, I'm gonna call it quits for now. See you all tomorrow. I'll probably do a live stream, probably do some more stuff, but until then,